Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. The European migrant crisis attracting global attention. Some of the images of refugees risking their lives and losing their lives are heartbreaking. All they want is a better life away from conflict and poverty. A chaotic scene played out Thursday in Hungary outside the Budapest train station. After waiting for 2 days, refugees and migrants were allowed to board, only to have the train stop just outside the city. In the first of two reports on the crisis, here's Reuters' Nathan Frondino.
Chaos and confusion break out in Budapest's Kaleti train station as officials attempt to end a standoff that has become the latest focal point of Europe's migrant crisis. When police opened the station, hundreds of refugees and migrants stormed a waiting train, cramming children through open doors and even open windows. They believed that they were finally being allowed to continue their journey west to Austria, Germany, and beyond, but they were wrong. Soon after it pulled away from the station, the train was stopped outside the city in Becek. Police there ordered the passengers off, triggering yet more chaos as many tried to run away. While Hungary has a migrant reception center there, it's far short of the destinations these people fleeing war and poverty are hoping to reach.
Nobody's going to help us. They are total liars. They talk about the human rights. They talk about international laws. But what kind of international laws and human rights they have?
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban defended his country's handling of the crisis Thursday after meeting with EU leaders in Brussels.
We Hungarians are full of fear. People in Europe are full of fear because we see that the European leaders, among them the prime ministers, are not able to control the situation.
The 28-nation EU has been struggling for months to handle the more than 332,000 migrants who have fled conflict and poverty in the Middle East, Asia, and Africa, the biggest stream of migrants into Europe since World War II. Germany, which is expecting to receive about 800,000 asylum seekers this year, has called on EU partners to share more of the burden.
You know, the problem is not a European problem. The problem is a German problem. Nobody would like to stay in Hungary. So we don't have difficulties with those who would like to stay in Hungary. Nobody would like to stay in Hungary, neither in Slovakia, nor Poland, nor Estonia. All of them would like to go to Germany.
The foreign ministers of Italy, France, and Germany signed a joint document Wednesday calling for, quote, a strong response to the crisis. The 28-member EU plans to hold emergency talks on the issue on September 14th. Richard Green, VOA News, Washington.
Well, for more insight on the crisis, Joel Millman, spokesperson, International Organization of Migration, joins me live via phone from Geneva. Joel, welcome to Africa 54.
I'm happy to be here. Can you see my picture okay?
Well, we are talking to you via phone, so I cannot see you. But nevertheless, it looks like things are only getting worse. First, Joel, can you give us a sense of how challenging it is when you have the mix of refugees and migrants? And what do people need to know?
We need to know that this crisis is reaching its peak.
As tragic as some of the images have been in the last 24 hours, we're fairly sure that there is beginning to be a consensus in Europe and pretty much across the world on how this should be dealt with. There's going to be some important meetings coming up in the next few days. People have really responded to the images and some of the news that's come out of Europe. It's a little strange because images just as awful were coming out of Africa for the last 2 years, but I think world public opinion is hardening around the idea that something really ambitious must be done to deal with a humanitarian emergency of this scale. And so on the whole, as tragic as the news has been, I think there's been a shift in this movement towards a settlement.
Now, we see the people, in fact, are not interested in staying in some of the countries where they first land, and yet there is an international law that requires that is where they seek asylum. How do you go about convincing these people that they cannot just proceed to the countries of their desire?
Well, that's one of the things that we see changing. A couple of countries have already said they think that rule should be waived, or they would like to work with the conditions where that rule is waived. If so, that would change the dynamic tremendously. If people will be able to reunite with their families and go to cities and where there's already an established community of their countrymen, which would take a burden off of the taxpayer of those states as well.
Now, Joel, how do you separate between the refugees who are running from war and migrants who might just be going to Europe to look for a better life?
It's hard to. I mean, this happens in humanitarian emergencies like this. I mean, this is kind of what goes with the territory. I mean, you know, when I started my career 40 years ago, there were people that were concerned that the large waves of Soviet Jews, they were called the refuseniks in those days, Soviet resettled refugees from the Soviet Union, that KGB spies were mixed in among them. And certainly that was true. I mean, that's always an opportunity that intelligence agencies have. So, you know, it's going to happen this way, too, but that doesn't change the nature of the emergency and the fact that we have to do things.
All right. Joel, thank you very much, and we hope to join you again next time on Skype. Joel Millman is the spokesperson for the International Organization of Migration.